It is Thursday, October 2nd, about 11 o'clock in the morning as we record the All 32 pod, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network. And let me tell you something. We've been blessed early in this relaunch of the program to have a Hall of Famer in Kurt Warner, a two-time MVP, Devin McCourty, who will be a Patriots Hall of Famer, and you could make the case maybe deserves consideration into the NFL Hall of Fame. Steve Weiss, who's probably in every broadcast Hall of Fame. All of that pales in comparison to what I'm bringing to the table today. It is my favorite podcast that isn't my own. In fact, I kind of can't stand my own. So this is my favorite podcast with my favorite people, or at least two of the three of my favorite people, is the Buffalo Plus podcast, of which I've been on probably enough to be like get credit as a co-host.
Yeah.
Jenna Cottrell, who should be in the middle because you want the rose between two thorns. Mike Catalana, grayer hair, distinguished,
Yes.
Also a broadcast Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And then the guy that looks like he could be borderline homeless. His name should be pronounced Fetes, not Fates. He's sinking into his seat. Dan Fates. Fates. Come on. You know I'm right. I can't tell you how excited I am for this. I was like, first of all, Dan and I were texting and I was like, well, he's like, do you want all of us or one of us? And I'm like, well, of course I want all of you because I like two of the three of you. I tolerate you, Dan. So here you are. I am thrilled to have you guys. And we're just going to let it rip.
Thanks for having me, especially. I know how much you have to sacrifice to have me on your pod, but really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for tolerating Dan. We do. You know the struggle. You know.
Yeah.
Yes, it's clear. Actually, it wasn't before Dan was hired by you guys in Rochester. Mike had a full set of dark black hair, and it has just gone to hell as he's tried to manage.
Yeah. My hair gets grayer, and Dan's mustache gets more
patchier.
Let's
get to it. People are like, can you start talking? Just a reminder, by the way, this is brought to you by the greatest fantasy daily sports app in North America, PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use the code CLNS, and you get $50 off your first lineup when you play 5. PrizePicks, run your game. People may listen to this on Friday, and maybe we'll have some clarification on some injuries, but there are some pretty key ones, Mike, with the Buffalo Bills. We haven't seen Spencer Brown, Matt Milano, Ed Oliver. They returned to practice. What are your expectations for Sunday night?
You know, it's interesting because, you know, the way this normally goes. Sometimes when a guy is out where you don't think he's going to play, maybe they don't practice Wednesday, they're limited Thursday, but you kind of get a sense. Ed was limping a lot over the past few days, but then he was out on the practice field and they miss him a ton. So there's no doubt about it. Dorian Williams missed practice. So that's even more the reason they'd want to get Milano back. And I think Dan noticed yesterday too. I think he was wearing a bit of a harness or whatever because he's banged up with the triceps. And Spencer Brown looked pretty good, and that's a valuable guy for them at that right tackle spot. So encouraging in general, but honestly, sometimes I think about this, Mike, and I'm like, sometimes people, I believe, think the injuries and who plays and doesn't might be based on an opponent. I think it's based on September, October. Like, this is a huge game, but it's still first week in October. So they'll be careful with them, but they probably need the two guys on defense back more than they need the one guy on offense.
Yeah, Jen, I was going to ask you, when I look at this Bills defense, there's a lot of names you recognize.
Mm-hmm.
Individually, there are a lot of good players, but through the first month of the season, it hasn't been what you'd want it to be, what you expect it to be for a legitimate championship contender.
Yeah.
But in particular, why can't they stop the run? Like, this feels like, come on.
I feel like we've been talking about stopping the run since Sean McDermott took over. Now, look, that also plays into the defensive philosophy that he has had since he has been in Buffalo. But I think it's funny. You're walking around Bills practice in Orchard Park this week, and what do you hear? Gap integrity, gap responsibility. Not easy things to yell, but you're hearing the coaches say this to the players over and over and again. And I think Ed Oliver being out these last couple of weeks has had an impact. I mean, Deion Walker and TJ Sanders, two of the Bills rookies this season. You've seen Deion Walker have some flashes and some moments, but they've been stepped up in weight class in terms of this is their rookie season. They're having to adjust a lot. And then also tackling has been just a really big issue for this team. A ton of missed tackles out there. And when you combine that with some of that gap responsibility not being into play, you've seen other teams. I mean, guys like Spencer Rattler running all over the place, like players like that have had success, but also at the same point, the Bills defense at moments, especially on third down, has made pedestrian players look really good because of those things.
Dan?
Yeah, it hasn't been good, man. Like,
you had this look on your face that went beyond the mustache where you're just kind of like,
yeah,
I haven't enjoyed this.
Well, yeah, and Mike, Jen and I are on the sideline, so like you're only seeing some of the stuff through the lens of our cameras when we're filming, and there'll be times when I'm like, oh, that was a really good play by Deion Walker. That was a really good play by Terrell Bernard, and we'll be sitting there, and it's like, oh, I've got clips that we can use, and then the rest of it is like, how did that happen? Like, what was this horrendous third down play? And like, I agree, there is hope that they will get this defensive line and this running game, stopping the running game, like figured out, but you can hope in one hand and crap in another, and see which one fills up first. Like, they are missing guys. There really hasn't been an excuse for the way that the Saints look like a competent offense against them. The Dolphins as well. Like, there are problems, and they may be schematic problems, because it's so easy, and you get it too. Like, fans go like, fire the coaches, Sean McDermott, fire him. Like, we see all that stuff. But when it's missed tackles, to Jenna's point, that's not on the coach. Sean's not making tackles. Like, that is what has got to be cleaned up more than anything.
Yeah, Patriots paid Robert Spillane a ton of money in the offseason, and Christian Ellis got a sizable contract at linebacker as well. And the first 2 weeks, they led the league in missed tackles. Those two guys were 1 and 2 in missed tackles. Now, Spillane has picked it up, and he's been the player that they expected. Ellis is still kind of caught on that rut, but it's your point. Like, look, man, I can do everything for you until it comes down to what happens between the lines. You have to get that guy down with the ball. If you don't, like, we're all going to look like idiots.
Mike, I think the other thing it goes back to in a big picture thing with this franchise is they're obsessed with the Chiefs. They can't beat the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs are not a great running team. I mean, they've had moments, but they're not a great running team. And the way this defense is set up, they've been smaller. They're trying to get a little bigger on the D-line. They play a nickel all the time with Taron Johnson. And they have tried to build this team to stop the Chiefs. It sounds funny, but you know the way it was in New England. You didn't worry about the division. Yeah. Now, maybe the Bills have a concern about the division now, the Patriots coming up, but they didn't worry about it. And they're not built to beat the Ravens, yet they've beaten the Ravens twice in the playoffs, which is wild. But that's a team that should hammer them, and have until they get to the playoffs. So I think the whole philosophy has been trying to be smaller, maybe not fast, but quicker. Taron Johnson playing, I think, is a regular defense guy for them, also says something about the way they want to play defense. And when teams just decide we're going to run it, they have not been built to be that way. It's the way they've drafted. It's the way they've signed. And I think that's part of their problem.
Yeah, Patriots will play a lot of, you'll see it. Their base defense is essentially the small nickel with Marcus Jones, who's 182 pounds in the slot at 5'8". Incredibly aggressive player, will come up and fill the run, probably better than the two bigger outside corners in Gonzalez and Davis. But like, that's how they want to play. You'll see some big nickel as well. You mentioned the way that they've sort of structured this defense. And one of the things that in the years that I got to cover them at the NFL Network, Poyer and Hyde and Poyer, and so much responsibility heaped on them. Now it's Cole Bishop, it's Taylor Rapp, maybe a sprinkling of DeMar Hamlin. Are they still, Jenna, asking them to do the same things that Poyer and Hyde did, even though clearly they're not the same level of player? I
think a verbal meme here, the Wolverine sitting on the bed, like longing, looking at a picture. It is a picture of Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. I think for Bills fans, for so long, you were just so comfortable and confident in that tandem and what they could do. Their level of athleticism, just their knowledge of the defense, their tackling ability, all of those things. So I think what you're seeing now is just they're not back there. And Taylor Rapp, I think he is a physical player. He is, injured a couple of his own players with how he throws his body around. Dan actually has a comment about, Dan, you want to say what you usually call Taylor Rapp?
Taylor Rapp's a crash test dummy. He's first team all crash test dummy. He almost took out Christian Benford during the Thursday night game against Dolphins. Jump ball goes up in the air, and he just puts his helmet down and he's like, I'm going to hit somebody, and ends up hitting his own guy. That's what he's done. He injured Taron Johnson a year ago, broke his forearm. Taylor Rapp is as physical as they come. It's just a matter of doesn't really care the jersey that what he's going to hit.
And Mike, I do need to add, I have this every time Dan says it. Dan does not believe Taylor Rapp is dumb.
It's not a dumb.
Yes.
It's zero regard.
You know we know what the crash test dummy thing is, but he says it.
Yeah.
And well, it's Dan. Yeah.
I think you have that. And then you have Cole Bishop, who's a younger player. He's in his second year. And I think he was injured a lot through training camp last year. He was injured training camp moments this year. And I think when you see a younger player trying to learn the defense, it's really hard when you're not on the field. So I think you see the growing pains with that. But I also think it's just the honest drop off of talent. And the Bills, we talk about how their defense is built. For the longest time, it was built, you know, kind of back to front because you had these guys that were cornerstones of your franchise. And now they've obviously invested a ton in their defensive line. But at the same moment, I think you're just seeing guys that are not the same caliber of player. And that's what you have to adapt to and move on from and figure out. But I think for a lot of time, you're just seeing some of the growing pains that go into it. And also the two of them together, like they haven't had a ton of time on task with one another. And let's be real, like that matters as well. So I think it's just some of the issues that come with just the change and it being different players and different caliber of players.
Yeah, you have to see it the same way. When you're speaking of crash test dummies, by the way, go back and watch the Marcus Jones punt return for a touchdown. Milton Williams, all of 295, 300 pounds of sheer athleticism and power and all that. He takes out Charles Woods, who's one of their vice guys and a corner. He takes him out. I mean, just absolutely flattens him. And we talked to him after the game, and he's like, "Oh, that was Charles?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got to apologize." I'm like, "You killed him. You absolutely smoked him." You know, he's like, "I was trying to hit somebody." I'm like, "Well, you did. You just didn't get the right guy." Last question for me defensively with the Buffalo Bills, Stan. Tre'Davious White.
Mm-hmm.
Love him, mean it. Was a terrific player before he got hurt and then hurt again. He's bounced around a little bit, multiple spots, Baltimore, LA, back in Buffalo. If I'm the Patriots and he's on the field, that's a place I'm going to look quite often.
Yeah. And honestly, Trey had a really, really strong training camp. Like it looked like not all pro Trey, but it was, there's still some tread left on the tires. He's kind of been picked apart. He had 2 early holding calls in the last game that he got flagged on. He's actually been a better tackler, as Mike has said before. Like he's been better. Actually, he's had a couple tackles for losses where you're like, he still has more physicality than what I remember him, but he is no longer that shutdown corner. And I don't even know if he would be playing right now if the Bills' first round player, Maxwell Harrison, hadn't injured his ACL or LCL in training camp. So yeah, he can get picked on. And again, the one thing to Jenna's point too about the way that it's built back to front, and Mike can attest to this too, this defense, just the way that their philosophy is don't get beat deep. So Trey will play 10 yards off and will give up 8-yard completions all down the field. And that's just how this Sean McDermott, Bobby Babich defense is. They just refuse to give up the big play. And it's tough because it kind of puts you in this bind where you really can't be aggressive as a corner, as a safety, because the whole premise is don't get beat deep, don't get beat deep, make teams go 12, 13 plays down the field on you. And some teams have been able to do it. Others haven't.
Yeah, and Mike, I think they drafted Hairston with the idea of somebody who could play a little more man, be a little more aggressive. That's not Trey, and I think that limits them. And back to the safety position, Dan's talked about this too, what Belichick used to say about the Bills' defense. Like, you didn't know what those safeties were doing, and that was the hardest thing about this defense. And when DeMar Hamlin was playing, you kind of knew the way they were going to play. Yeah. Now, Cole Bishop gives them an athlete back there, and he just made an incredible play this past week. Yeah. And the more he gets comfortable, I do think it opens some stuff up for them. I don't know if it's there in week 5 yet, but it's better. But at the corner position, there's no doubt. And I think you might start to see a little more of Dorian Strong, who was a 6th-round pick. But Trey's going to start, and I think you're right. I think that's probably where the Patriots go.
Well, the Steelers approached the Patriots that way, by the way, where they play off a little bit, and Drake Maye took all the profit underneath, and they'd had these 15-play, 17-play drives. Then they would turn the ball over in the red zone, which killed him in that game. But like to this point, he has shown a willingness to do that. Josh McDaniels in his ear. So I'll be curious to see that sort of chess match between the two. Dan, you love money. Uncle Dan's picks every week. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. This past week, you did win. You rubbed it in my face on social media.
I did.
Because I thought you were out of your mind. I mean, you are out of your mind.
Yeah.
You got, in this case, it was good for you. But I have a great experience for all of you, for all the listeners out there. If you're into daily fantasy sports, PrizePicks is the place to go. Over 10 million members. You can cross sports, which is outstanding because you have the baseball playoffs going on right now. You have the women's basketball playoffs. You've got soccer, and of course, you've got plenty of football. You just pick statistical lines, more or less, on these different numbers that you can get. Sometimes they give you little benefits where you can kind of tweak the numbers as well to get the numbers more in your favor. 2 players up to 6 to win up to 1,000 times your cash. So all you got to do is download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 off your first lineups when you play $5. Again, download the code. Download the app. Use the code CLNS to get 50 in lineups off of your first 5. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, let's get to the good stuff here, the real stuff. Josh Allen, Mike, better than last year? Question mark.
Good
you know what's funny? We've sort of settled into this Josh, where he's like when he needs to be. I said last week, he put on the cape, ran through everybody, then threw a dart to Kincaid for a touchdown. The Baltimore game, everybody saw 251 yards in the fourth quarter. But his ability, you talk about patience, his ability to, I guess, let everybody eat, to take what's there, to not make mistakes. That's who he is. So would he be better? Honestly, he was so good at it last year. And he had to break it out, in the game in Detroit, the game with the Rams, and like he had 1,000 yards in 2 games. I would say he's about the same.
Mm-hmm.
And he won the MVP last year. So that tells you where I think he is right now.
Well, it always used to be, Mike, you'd say, and especially when you were, covering the AFC East and all those things, it was Josh Allen is awesome, and there would always be that, but he turns the ball over, but he's reckless. And since Stefon Diggs left, and I'm sure we'll get to talk to him, there has been this philosophy of everybody eats. And we've all kind of, at least around here, like scoffed at the idea. Brandon Beane went on a local radio station and pretty much was like, why are we talking about wide receivers? We don't need them. We scored 30 points a game this offseason. And it is kind of like frustrating because I think you would like to have a true number 1 wide receiver. I think that's what it is. But I asked Josh last week, like, how he's like, well, I got to protect the football. And I kind of laughed and I said, this isn't a novel idea about protecting the football as a quarterback. You didn't just learn that this last year when Diggs left, but he said there is a sense of feeling freer, not having one guy that you have to, and he didn't say it, but it was read between the lines of not having to force the ball to one person. Diggs was getting 160 targets in Buffalo. Now everybody kind of gets 80 targets and it's spread around. And I think that's been a big thing for him, of way that he's processed his reads has allowed him to be more methodical, which is something that it wasn't thought of could be done. It was like, you can't take the gunslinger out of Brett Favre, that kind of stuff. Josh has shown that, Jenna, men can change.
The rarity. Yeah. No, what was the Chris Long thing about like Josh Allen is like a carnival ride operated by drunk carnies?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I will say, in these last couple seasons, Mike, like, you have seen specific moments where Josh knows he could make a ridiculous, insane play. Last week, he could have put a block down for James Cook, and you saw him pull up at the last second and be like, no. Like, you see, it's almost like the shot caller of like the invisible fence. He's like, no, I can't. But I think you've just seen through him evolving and maturing. And I think he said himself 2 off seasons ago, like, I wanted to limit the turnovers. That was a big but about his game. And to see him do it and actually put together the processing and also just the ability to be like the restraint, I think that's something that we didn't always know would come with Josh Allen's game. But as he's evolved as a person, he's evolved as a player.
And one last thing to that point too, last year in the playoffs, Josh was trying to run it in against the Ravens and got stopped at like the 2-yard line and kind of got held up. And there was a moment that he thought about pitching the ball back to James Cook. And I asked him about it and he's like, nope. And I was like, would young Josh have done that? And he's like, young Josh would have definitely done that. So he has changed. And there is that moment where it's like the devil and the angel on his shoulders. And he's like, do I go crazy? Do I hurdle this guy? He's like, no, I'll slide. Even now, like when he slides, there is kind of this smirk, like, you guys didn't think I would do it. I can be smart with the football and his body.
You'll see the quarterback that's going to come in there on Sunday night for the Patriots, who is still learning the ins and outs of that, of when to live to play another day versus that, hey, I can do this. I did this in North Carolina. I did this in high school. Why can't just 2 weeks ago against Pittsburgh, the fumble that he had, a critical spot in the fourth quarter. He did the right thing. He put the ball in his chest. There were bodies around him. He was like, I'm going to protect the football. And then he saw Tre'Davious Henderson cross his face, and he said, ooh, I can pitch him the ball, a little flick forward. And the moment he took the ball away from his chest, Nate Herbig comes in, knocks it free, turnover, ball game over, those sorts of things. So different stages. Josh is in the stage now where he has the balance down. Although, by the way, you did ask him that question, and then didn't he throw his first interception against the Saints?
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yes. Nice job, Dan. Send emails, complaints to
Yeah,
Buffalo Plus at Dan.
Hey, he took a shot downfield. That's something he never does. So we're trying to stretch this offense.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, but he threw it
I
to
love how you say
Dawson.
weird trying to stretch this.
Yes, he threw it to Dawson Knox, his deep threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody takes the top off a defense like Dawson Knox.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the guy who is now the Patriots' unquestioned number one receiver, coming off his first 100 game in a Patriots uniform, 6 catches, 103 yards. That, of course, being Stefon Diggs. Before we get into what Stefon Diggs, the player, is now and how maybe Buffalo will deal with him, Mike, I'm curious from your perspective. Just take me through the Steph Diggs experience, because you got to live all of it, the wonderful honeymoon stage, the heights, to what invariably happens with Stefon Diggs.
Well, let's start with this. He was incredibly important to Josh Allen becoming Josh Allen. Like Josh was good in 19. He was still, he had the crazy playoff game against Houston. Then it come in 20, and here comes Diggs. And it was electric. And Diggs was phenomenal for him, and really was for a couple of years where it was great. And so there's no denying they had chemistry on the field. They had their own handshakes, all those things that went on. But Josh, with Brian Daboll calling the plays, elevated his game. I mean, he went from very good quarterback with potential to superstar is what he did. And Diggs had a lot to do with it. So, sometimes there's revisionist history on what it was. Now, when they needed him the most in the playoffs. So like when you started to talk about, number one wide receivers, I joked yesterday, well, the guy who came through in the playoffs for him was Mac Hollins, not Stefon Diggs during his time, because he really did not. He had one decent playoff game and really wasn't great. But what he did for Josh, what he did for that offense, how it elevated the whole thing, unquestioned that it got him to a certain point, but then it ended. And when it ended, it wasn't great. And then it was bad at the end.
Yeah, and just to set the stage too, like there were lawn signs on essentially every lawn in Western New York, Diggs Allen. Like there was everyone was all in. Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs had a cover of Sports Illustrated Kids magazine, the Best Buddies version. Like it was a chemistry. You could tell they were friends, all this stuff. And I think that Stefon Diggs, throughout his career, you've seen him kind of wear on organizations. And I think the thing about Stefon Diggs is, to me, he is relentless. Like he is a relentless worker. He is relentless about his craft. He is relentless in the way he goes about things. But I also think because of that can wear on the people around you. And I think there was obviously a disconnect at the end. The Bills decided, all right, we're going to make this move. He ended up going to Houston. We know how that ended with the injury. Now he's in New England. But I think a piece of what makes Stefon Diggs so good is that mindset. But I think that mindset can sometimes just wear on people around you.
It's funny to me because that's one of the things I really appreciated about him during his rise to fame and stardom in Minnesota. And then, of course, in Buffalo, is like his competitiveness is off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mind the occasional blow up on the sidelines. Like, it's just, Jamar Chase the other day talking to Zach Taylor, like, dude, I'm the best freaking receiver in the league. Like, they've got to figure out a way to get me the football somehow, some way, and let me do my thing. So that's fine. But when it took to social media and you had all these cryptic posts and, A.J. Brown's currently doing that in Philadelphia, right? Then backtracking. Well, I didn't really mean it, but I do want the ball. The whole thing. It's like, can't you just appreciate where you're at and who you're working with? Like this should have been a connection that is still in place because Steph is still a good football player and he would help the Buffalo Bills, but he can't, Dan, help himself in that regard. And it's why I look at this Patriots situation and some people are like, just embrace it. This is who he is. And I'm like, no, there's a whole bunch of layers to him. And maybe you don't see that in year one because he's trying to put his best foot forward, but it's there. It's always been there with him, and it will always be there with him.
Yeah, we kind of saw it too a little bit, kind of seeing it now, like the way that you said that training camp went and the way that he didn't talk to the media and all those kind of things. When he came to Buffalo, it was, hey, I got to clear the air. Like what you heard about me in Minnesota isn't what it really is. And he did this whole press conference and he would say, stay off my social media, like all this kind of stuff. When he spoke, it was very thoughtful and intelligent, and you were like, oh, he gets it. But then there'd be all the other stuff on the sides. So like, and to Jenna's point, like she talks about relentless, like you talk to the players, like we talked to Ed Oliver yesterday and he's like, Steph's going to want to do Steph things. Like we know the competitor. Everybody talked about his, the level of compete that he has. They said that he rose the level of practice in Buffalo because of the way that he competed in practice. But Jenna, when you say, when she says relentless, I towards the end of it, I was like, everything has an expiration date. Food, coaching runs.
Your mustache. Yeah, your mustache.
I walked into that one.
Yeah, you did.
Mike and I were all about that.
Yeah.
We were on the same wavelength.
I was looking at the camera, not at the monitor, and I didn't see that cue. But yeah, it fizzled out, and it fizzled out poorly. And we were talking about in the Buffalo Plus podcast yesterday, and like Mike's like, I hope they cheer for him when he comes back.
Oh, wait a minute. That's not what I said.
You're mischaracterizing what
I
Mike
said he's going to go out in the field, and he is genuine about this. He always plays catch with the kids. He's done that everywhere. I said it's kind of hard to boo a guy when he's playing catch with an 8-year-old, right? No, but I did not say I hope they cheer him. I said I thought he would get cheered and then eventually get booed.
It went south because in like Jenna said, he was the second.
Yeah, with nothing.
He was the second most beloved Bills player.
Yes,
no question. And the way that it ended, it didn't go well. And so I think there's a lot of animosity and bad feelings. I wouldn't say bad blood, but there are hurt feelings when he comes back to Buffalo on Sunday night.
Well, and also too, like, I think it made it abundantly clear, which I'm not shocked the Bills did this, but like no one is above Josh or this team. Like no one is going to be. Josh is the only one that's put on a pedestal, and that's because he's Josh bleeping Allen. But there's not going to be some rift in the locker room because it's not worth it. And I think for Diggs, like I do think his mindset is what makes him such a special player. Like that is why he is so good. But at some point, like Dan was talking about, that expiration date. I mean, you have his brother tweeting out things and he's like, don't talk about my brother. It's just, it's a lot. And you can sometimes deal with a lot because of what you're getting. But the Bills made it very clear, even before Diggs was off their roster, that they were moving things in a different direction. And so it just made sense that something had to give. Obviously, he gets traded. But for the most part, I am very curious what the reception will be, because Diggs did do a lot for Josh Allen and making him a star. And so what will that balance be? I'm expecting boos, but at the same moment, I do think there needs to be some level of appreciation for how he helped Josh Allen raise his game.
And Mike, on the plus side, you haven't had to deal with any off-field issues with Stefon Diggs since he's came to New England. It's been all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw his rambling 9-minute press conference, and you've mentioned it. Like, and I've said this to people from the moment they expressed interest. I'm like, he is savvy, and he is a charming mother bleeper. Like that guy can.
He knows exactly what he is doing.
Yes, if you don't know the history, or you're willing to just close your eyes to all that's happened with him in the past stops, and seemingly every week there's something on the internet about Steph Diggs and his off-field life, which he doesn't want to talk about. I don't talk about my personal life. Well, how about if you tell other people to stop talking about your personal life? Because every time I Google you, that's all that comes up. Not football stuff, it's the other stuff. But he was talking yesterday, and someone asked him point blank, Karen Garrigan, great reporter from the Boston Herald, and she was like, clarify this for us. Did you want out of there? Word salad, baby. He could not. It's the business part. You don't handle the business. The only business I can handle is whether I catch passes and get open or not. And I'm like, but in 2024 in the offseason, you did an interview with GQ where you were like, I had to go. I told them I was miserable. I had to go. Like, you said you did that. That was you. And now you're saying, no, I had nothing to do with it. So it's like, hey, I can read and remember what you said, your exact quotes. And I didn't want to get into it with him because it's just not, whatever.
Yeah.
It's pointless at this point. How do you think, Jenna, that the Bills as a team deal with him? Because you're talking about like, hey, they think Steph's going to do Steph things. Does Christian Benford, who has been known to travel, will he travel with Stefon Diggs? Will they say, Sean McDermott, Bobby Babbage say, you know what, we're not going to let happen in this game. We're not going to let that guy beat us on our home field.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, that's an interesting point. I'm curious how they will approach it because I think that this is one of those games that they all mean a lot and it's a division game. And you can go through the laundry list of like this team trying to stay perfect at home, wants to get to 5-0, all this stuff. But I do think if you are Sean McDermott, if you're Josh Allen, if you're the guys on this roster that remember what that experience was like, this game does mean that much more to you. And maybe that's me being like putting this game up above where it needs to be. But I will be curious. I don't know, Mike, what do you think in terms of what they do? Because Diggs, I'm just shocked at how Diggs looks being so close removed from such a major injury. Now, Dan Fetes has historically called an ACL tear and surgery an oil change. I don't know if you've heard that, Mike. Might be his hottest take, literally of all time. All time. But I am impressed by how Diggs looks. So it's obviously someone that's you're going to need to know where he is on the field at all times.
If I'm the Bills, I would pick my spots to have him travel with him. Maybe in those leverage plays, a third down, whatever it is, for two reasons. When I say this, I don't think he's good enough to warrant full-time coverage from your number one guy. And I don't think the Bills' other corners are good enough to be left exposed because I think Maye will take advantage of that. So I think you pick your spots when Benford is on him. Going in the slot, probably Taron Johnson will be there. And maybe, that would be more his responsibility. And when I say that, I mean, you have Jamar Chase, you got AJ Brown, you have players that are, Jefferson that are there. I don't think Diggs is there. I'm saying this before the game, but I think in spots they will.
Mike, you talked about with the Patriots corners that they just want to do cat coverage of you got this cat, you got that cat. That's really nice when you have two of those guys. We already talked about Trey White. Like the Bills don't really have that guy. And to be able to do that, you also have to have the secondary and the safeties to also do that. Like the Bills really try and do, and it's kind of cliche. It's very cliche where Sean's like, you do your 111. Like, I don't know if Benford is that type of man shutdown corner, if that makes sense. Like he's so much better as like a zone sit back read guy. That's why he's, he got paid as a top 15 corner, and that's probably exactly where he is. Like he kind of got picked apart at times by Waddle on the Thursday night game against the Dolphins. Like he's not the physical freak that a Patrick Surtain is to automatically warrant you're going to go get that guy. So I don't know how much they will have him travel because one, that's not his strength, and it's not the strength of the Bills defense either.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see the matchup and how they treat him. If they give him a little special treatment, I think, Mike, you're probably right. They were probably looking at if they really want to. He's become the third down guy. Hunter Henry is as well. And as I said, Drake's spreading it around, but like that seems to be the most comfort there. So maybe that's the high leverage situation. Yeah. Hey, let's mix it up a little bit. Let's throw Benford in front of him, or let's bracket him and force him to go someplace else. If you can beat us with Mac Hollins or Keyshawn Boutte or whoever, good luck to you. Last question for me before I let you guys get out of here. Seems to me like the Bills have been playing with their food recently. I watched the Miami game. You're like, oh, it's going to be a blowout. And the way it started, you're like, it's going to be a blowout, Dan. Then it's not a blowout. Then you're in a dogfight until the end. The Saints game, I'm at my game. I'm watching my game, but I'm monitoring scores. I'm like, oh, they're already ready to run them out the building. And of course, for the Patriots, this matters. They play New Orleans in a few weeks. And then, oh, wait a minute. What, they're losing? What happened? Do you think that is in part because of, hey, we're really good in these games, September, it's a lesser opponent, we're not really concerned about it? But then the flip side is, do you think this Sean McDermott now has their attention and says, hey, these guys are coming in here off a lopsided win, thinking like, oh, you know what? We could be frisky in this division. We have an easy schedule. Like, if we can somehow pop them here, the whole trajectory of the season changes. Does he have their attention in this regard?
Yeah, I think, and it's funny, obviously, clearly you listen to the Buffalo Plus podcast because
I told you it's number one on my playlist.
Playing with your food has been Jenna saying so far early on this season. And part of it is the offense. It's funny. They marched on the field the first 2 drive against the Saints, and I'm on the sidelines like they're going to score every possession. Like this is it. And then whether it's a lull, whether Joe Brady gets cute on some 3rd and 4th down calls, like they just haven't put together a complete 60-minute game yet. And when we talk about style points and, well, you didn't beat this team or you didn't cover that spread against the Saints and all these things. And they always, Josh will say, they get paid too, and give them credit, and they played really well, and all of these cliches where you're like, yeah, but you guys, like you said, we're playing with your food. So I think the fact that I feel comfortable or more comfortable with the Bills in this spot is because New England came off such an impressive win. I was actually slightly more worried about the Saints game because they got embarrassed the week before, where it's like, all right, you got 10 days. The Saints seems not a problem. I think the environment, to me, Jenna, will give the Bills a big boost. It's supposed to be a whiteout. They're wearing special jerseys. Trey said, well, we got to play well in the jerseys for that to matter. And it being a division game, which is something they take a lot of pride in at home, makes me think that they'll have their attention, Jenna.
I'm not going to lie, though. I am nervous about this game because I do think it is a division game. I think Drake Maye has looked pretty good this season. I mean, obviously there's the turnovers that have been kind of the thorn in the side for this offense. But at the same point, I do think that this is a team that has some talent. They really do. And so the Bills have loved, and I love that you use play with your food, because that's that to me. And like, what are you doing? Good teams put other teams away, but good teams also find ways to win. And I think the early part of the season was kind of like getting out the cobwebs. This team knows that they're really good. They have the NFL MVP, but I think this is a situation on Sunday night where it's like, all right. And I love that the Patriots came off that big win. Good. They're feeling good. It gets your attention. If you're the Bills, you're like, all right, we need to figure this out. We need to kind of, what's that called? Where you tighten down the screws?
Tightening down the screws.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm really handy, obviously, but I do think it's one of those things where it gets your attention in a good way, and I expect to see that type of effort on Sunday night.
And Mike, it's great you mentioned that, because nothing Jenna likes to do. She's been mentioning this phrase, playing with her food, because one, it's accurate, and there's nothing Jenna Cottrell likes to talk about more than food. Am I right? Okay,
yeah,
that it is.
1000%.
I love the fact that it's a big division game because, for years, the Patriots could sort of dismiss the division. Let's be honest. They were going to win it. And I still think the Bills are the best team in the division. But, hey, it's October, and you're making a good point. Like, they definitely have their attention coming in. And I think it's also a place where the Bills can still show their dominance in the division. Because you beat them, you'd have a 3-game lead on everybody and a win against every team in the division, and you'd be rolling. So, and the pressure's on the Bills. New England's just trying to show we can match up with the big boys, and if we steal the game, it's on. So I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere and a great game.
Dan, for your Uncle Dan bets, I heard a stat. So league percentage when you're a touchdown or more underdog in the last 10 years or something, the league is like you win like 15% of the time. It's just you don't. Mike Vrabel's 4-4 in these moments. So just something to ponder as you get ready to wow your public on Buffalo Plus with your picks.
8.5's a lot. Like we were talking about it on ours. Like we all thought it'd be 6.5. I didn't think it'd get over the key number of 7. And I know the Bills have been really good at home. Mike has a great stat that it's been so long since the Bills have lost a regular season home game that Russell Wilson has been benched by 3 different teams since the last time they lost a home game. But I like the over. I think there's gonna be a lot of points in this game.
I agree.
You're very high from talking to you. We were texting Sunday night that, hey, if Drake Maye keeps playing like this, like they'll be able to score. There is this sense, I will say, for Bills fans that like every time the Bills defense takes the field, you're kind of like, oh, you're kind of watching through your fingers. Like, I don't really like what I'm seeing here. So I think there'll be a ton of points. The Bills have scored 30 plus points in every single game. They've been really good at home over this last, season and a half. So I think there'll be a lot of points.
I'll give you one more thing. Drake Maye spoke on Wednesday afternoon, and he's a fast talker. Like, I'm a fast talker, and like I have to play him when I transcribe him at least 3/4 speed, and sometimes truly I have to go down to half speed.
Wow.
And I still can't keep up. Now I'm a slow typer, but point being, he is a motor mouth. He had in the last couple of weeks, the tempo had gone down. I'm like, oh, he's getting more comfortable in front of the microphone, and he's got himself handled and everything. This is just all playing into the way he's playing. Yesterday, he was like times 100. I was like, I don't even know what you said. I don't even know if it made any sense. And in fact, I went back and listened to some of it. It didn't make any sense. There were just words upon words that didn't form a sentence. He might throw a couple balls on that opening drive into the 17th row. That's a real possibility. We've seen him have struggle this year in particular, like early on. He's a little hyped. He says, I'm not going to change what I do, but I think they'd probably like him to come down a notch or two coming into the game.
That's 2019 Josh.
I was just saying,
oh, absolutely.
Sugar High Josh.
Yeah.
And then there's some guy like Favre never lost it. Favre just did it from start to finish, 20-something years, and he came out in the first drive, and he's throwing it to the other team. He's throwing it into the upper deck. You had no idea where it was going to go. Yep. Well, I want to thank you, Jenna, as always, Mike, Mr. Mustache, for joining us. Buffalo Plus, like, rate, review, subscribe, do all those comment, as Jenna likes to say. Also do that here for the All 32 pod. We are, again, as I mentioned, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network, Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel, likes, notifications. And if you give me a 5-star review, maybe Dan will give you a free pick. I can't assure you that will win, but that's what we're looking for. Appreciate you. Can't wait to see you guys. Been a little bit. I'm very happy that I get to, in the last year of this version of Highmark Stadium, I get to experience it one more time because it is still my favorite place to watch a game. Not the most beautiful stadium, but absolutely bonkers. The energy in that place, the fan base. We'll see what the
wait till you see the new spaceship that's being built across the street.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it yet.
It's cool.
Nuts.
Yeah, it's huge. It's twice the size of this stadium, I think.
Let's go. I don't know. Now I feel like I'm gonna miss the old place. I'm letting you know. I know it's probably gonna be nicer.
We're ready.
I'm gonna miss it. All right. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. We will see you on Sunday, and thank you all for watching the program. We'll talk to you soon.